Hi, this is Carol Mixon, and I have Sue Haviland here with me, and I'm so excited because we've talked about this over the years. Like we were going to get together and talk about like some storage tales, the true and the strange. And I hope you like this because it's a lot of fun and it is just really weird.
Have you ever found any illegal things?
Yeah, the usual.
The usual. I found in that same one where I had the snake, I went into that same hallway that the snake was in, but it had like an L shape, and I was like, wow, something smells really chemically here, isn't that? Is that weird? And the manager, and the same manager, and he's like, I don't know. He said, I can smell it, but it's not overwhelming. And I said, oh, that is a definite chemical smell. So I said, go get the bolt cutters. So we cut off 3 or 4 in the first little where you would walk in, and nothing. I mean, nothing at all. And I was like, it's got to be here because the further we went down the hallway, you couldn't smell it as much. I'm like, it's concentrated right here. And I said, wait a minute, what about the 10 by 10 on the outside? Let's try that one. So we open it up and we lift the door up, and there inside is 5 55-gallon drums. And I was like, oh no. I said, this does not look good. And there's some beakers and some other stuff up front. But then I looked over on the left in the bottom of the space, and there were sticks of dynamite. And I'm thinking, I think the manager was like, what does that look like to you? Does that look like dynamite? Because I really don't, I mean, I've seen it on TV. I haven't really seen it up and close, like, right? So I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, what is that stuff that looks like something's on the outside? And I'm like, is it sweating nitroglycerin? I'm like looking down like, huh. I could not get over it. And so then I said, we need to call the police. And so they came out and they shut down not only, you know, we were at the end of the cul-de-sac that was there, but they took all the people in the apartments and they had to evacuate from these, and it was like maybe 300 apartments. But they said there was so much that could have blown up that whole block.
I've been there with you on that one.
Weird. It's
Yeah,
a weird
and when you get something like that, think about all the times we don't know. And this is just another one of those reasons why it's so important our staff are always paying attention out on the properties, because, you know, Lord only knows what's in some of these units. And
Right.
we just happen upon it sometimes when somebody gets late or you smell something. So if you're not paying attention, you've been doing this as long as I have. You've had units catch on fire, and
Oh yeah.
it's because of people doing things they shouldn't be in their units that
Right.
start fires. So
And how have you actually had buildings burned down?
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. And what were they living in it, or was this something else?
More than something else. Well, the one where the guy who set the fire actually burned himself up. Didn't mean to, but he was sneaking in. We found his bike in the bushes, the day after the fact. He'd sneak in, hop the gate after, go in his unit and do his drugs. It got too high, and he set the building on fire and burned himself up. And we didn't know we had body till,
Right.
found him. And so, just people, I had another meth head who was burning candles to light her pipe and left the burning in a unit and took out more than half of a building that way. So
I've had the same sort of things. It's always been related to someone trying to live out of the space. They try to do something. Hey, when you get a chance on my YouTube stuff, there's a guy that put out he just on YouTube, he put a little thing on how to, cook your own meal in a storage room. Really? And then we were trying to, it was up in Phoenix, so we were all trying to find out what store it's at so we can, try to get him out of there, but we still hadn't had any luck at that. So
well, it's like the video that was out there a few years back of the guy that had made a whole apartment in his unit.
Oh yeah. I love that. Boy, he got tons of views too, didn't he?
Yeah,
I mean,
and the cords running out. So again, another thing, when you see cords running out of a unit, and your units aren't supposed to have electricity, what are they doing,
Yeah, that wouldn't have gotten by you, would it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't have gotten by me because I would have seen those extension cords when I do my physical inventories and I do my walkthroughs. I absolutely constantly look for weird things on the door, on around the doors. You know, that to me is a telltale sign, don't you think? I mean, it's like, yeah, you got
Absolutely.
to watch for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what the fun of it.
Yeah,
All
because
the
they
weird.
get a little annoyed when we come along and see them and the managers let it be that way for a while
Oh,
and,
oh yeah.
all of a
Oh
sudden they
yeah.
can't run the records. So,
If that guy, he said he was filling up his water jug at the fountain and stuff inside. I'm like, you know, the manager has to see some of that unless they never get out on the property. But it was
yeah.
indoors, so I don't know. It was weird.
Who's been your strangest tenant?
How much time do we have?
I don't know. Pick a good
Um,
one. I don't-
let's see. Well, in almost 35 years, I've only had to go to arbitration once about a unit that we sold.
Yeah.
And it's because the lady thought she was a vampire.
What?
Yeah, that was really
That
interesting.
was her defense?
Yeah, yeah, that we were discriminating against her because she couldn't come in during the day. And
Oh my gosh. Only after
yeah,
dark? Did
and then
she?
sold her because she wouldn't come in during the day. And I'm like, we sold you because you didn't pay your bill for 6 months.
Yeah, that's weird.
But
I
no, it was one of the craziest things I've ever had to sit through.
right. And she was probably actually believing, she believed all that, right? I'm
She
assuming.
did. When we were talking, and the arbitrator was like, "Well, I think we'll all break for lunch and we'll go get a bite to eat." She's like, "No, no, 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 no! I don't eat. I feed."
I figured it was going to be something. Oh my God, do we need a special lunch for her? That's like the guy that I had that came to into the office, and I was there working with my manager, and this guy, he's got on like motocross stuff, and he rides up on a bike, and he had some trash bags and that he was going to put in storage. But he came in and he looks around and he's real quiet, and then he says something to the manager and he just mumbles it, and I say, hey, how are you doing today? And he looks at me and I said, I like your outfit. And and I don't know why I say stupid stuff like that, because this is manager, she loves to like kick me underneath the counter. Like, don't get him started, like, right. And so anyway, he took off, he had a hat above, like where he had the aluminum on his head. And so he took his hat off and he said, well, I'm the Russians and the US government are tracking me. And they've put a tracking device in my head, so I have to keep this on so they don't find me. And he was just, I mean, he believed that completely. So I was like, wow, that was weird. Had another one weird one that this was in a Hollywood store, and we just opened the store, and this customer was complaining because she was down on the basement floor with this guy, and he would always come in with a bag over his head. You know, you could still, he had his little eye things cut out, but he was, very young, but I guess he got kicked out of a mental institution. They said he could no longer live there. I think they closed him down in California, didn't they, or something like that? So he was out, and he was just kind of crazy, and he didn't want anyone to see him. He felt like people were going to beat him up. He wasn't harmful or anything, but it scared the other tenants, and we had to finally ask him to, can you at least take the bag off when you come in? And or we can escort you down there, something, if you need help. So that now my manager had to escort him down there, so it was just weird. I was doing an audit in Hawaii, and so I was going on the outside of the property, and to get to some drive up spaces that were on this other side. And so I walk around the back, and there are all these coffee cans, and there are probably 40 of them along the whole side of the street. And I look inside there and I'm thinking, what is that? It was something in the bottom. And so I went and asked the manager, and she goes, oh my gosh. She said, I hope you didn't touch it or anything, did you? And I said, well, no, I didn't. I'm pretty good about that after, my time in self-storage. And she said, what they do is they're the crack addicts, and they pee in these cans, and then it crystallizes, and then they re-smoke it.
Oh.
It's called yellow ice. I'm like, really? And she goes, yeah, really. I'm like, that's just so nasty, isn't it? But it's,
Yeah.
I'm like, I would have picked up, I wouldn't have left those there. And I would have called the police and said, hey, can you like monitor this area? But no, they were just allowing it, like a little too much.
Along with the craziest, I had one of the stupidest tenants ever. I don't know if you've ever had this, but they rented a unit to practice shooting their gun, which proceeded to just put a bunch of holes in our metal
What?
unit, but it ricocheted and hit themselves. Ended up shooting them.
No, how big of a unit was it?
Like a 10 by 10.
Oh my God, that's got to be the stupidest thing I've heard.
Because how we started, the couple tenants next door to them started complaining about, we have all these like dime-sized holes in our walls and stuff. And then, when you start, and then, yeah, he ended up.
Wouldn't want to do it at home. So let's
don't know how
storage
he
unit and do it in it.
but yeah.
Oh my God, I can't take it. That's hilarious.
Can you give us an awkward manager incident or firing?
I'm going to remind you of one because I don't know where we were and you were telling me the story, but you'd put someone in a cab.
In a cab?
In a cab, you fired them, and
I'm trying to remember. Probably. I'm trying to remember
I thought you put a note on him to where to send him or take him. Is that maybe I'm wrong? You do remember? Okay, please tell that, will you?
Well, it's, I don't know why. Oh, yeah, I just.
You win this category. I'm going to say you win this category already because between that, yeah, and the next one, I hope that you tell. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah, somebody would have a little trouble with drinking and doing things, and so a little out of it when he got fired, so I had to put him in a cab to get him out of the property. So.
And didn't you pin the where he was supposed to go to?
Yeah, because he was he couldn't slurring and so yeah, I just pinned his address in case he kept trying to go somewhere else. In case he tried to come back to the property.
Did you have to pay for the cab or not?
Yeah.
I would have said, boy, I hope he can pay for that cab, but
Yeah.
for the cab, he probably wouldn't let him in there without some kind of payment, huh?
Completely spaced on that one. I can't believe I didn't think of that one for the list because I was thinking more about the time I got chest bumped.
Oh, I have not forgotten that.
Yeah, I always took somebody with me or made sure I could do terminations on cameras because having been beat up in the storage industry, I'm always mindful of my own safety as well as everybody else's. But
yeah,
had this little, I'm 5'7", and so I had this little 5'2" maybe assistant manager, and again, always on something at work, high most of the time back in the day before it was, even legal. And so I took, our 6 foot, probably 2 controller with me to have a witness. And so he's standing there, and this little employee, when I fired him, called me the mother superior and chest bumped me.
Oh my God, no way.
Stood there, and I'm like, really?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. And then one of the other ones was, well, this one falls into a few categories because I inherited a manager who clearly had some issues and had issues with women, had issues with any kind of authority. And so he had cats. And so anytime he went in the office, all you could smell was cat urine and that. So long story short, when I finally got to get up in the apartment and that, he had 18 cats with one litter box. So the second bedroom was just an empty room with one litter box. Yeah, and the cats had all been inbreeding because they weren't fixed and they were up in the walls. And so the day I terminated him and we got him out of there and I could get control and get back up there, I had to get a cat catcher. I never knew there was such a thing to get all the cats out of the walls. And then I he obviously left a very full litter box. And then he had left, one of the things when I'd gone up the one time, he'd always go up to his apartment a lot and you could smell alcohol on him. And he'd always say, no, I just drink a lot at night. That's why I can still smell it. Well, he was going up to his apartment and doing shots. He'd line up his shots every morning.
Oh
and
my gosh.
One of the relief people that he kind of trusted and let up there had gotten a picture for me of all his shot glasses lined up, and he'd go up like every hour and do a shot. So,
Oh man.
yeah. So, it was kind of,
Well, let me tell you one of mine, because I had, and this is in my lovely national storage, self-storage days. And because, it was so early in self-storage and we had resident manager couples. And I went to the store because we had noticed that they had been putting some things through on petty cash and that they were stealing. And it wasn't a lot, but it was theft. So the Joe Nimchek was the president of National at the time, and he's like, get in there and you fire him. I was like, okay. So I was like the hatchet person, and I go in and I had all my information there, and I said, I need to talk to both of you. And then, so I said, well, I've found some discrepancies in your petty cash and a couple of other things, and I wanted to show you. And so then he said, wait a minute, what? And I said, well, there's been some theft. And then he said, hold on just a minute. And he runs upstairs. And then I'm thinking, okay, what just happened? I'm thinking, oh no, he's going to get a gun, or he's coming back, I don't know or maybe he's going to bring money back to, I had no clue. I wasn't really sure. And so he came back down in full Vietnam vet uniform. And I was like, oh man, okay, this got even really weirder really fast. And he goes, now you tell me to my face that I'm a thief. And sir, I said, well, I'm not telling you, you are, but your wife has been. It's the only ones I find is her initials and things that she's done. And then he looks at her, and you could see tears welling up, and tears just started going. She couldn't say much, but she said, yeah, but it wasn't a lot. And she said, can we pay it back and keep our jobs? And I said, no, unfortunately, no. And so he was so upset. And I said, well, take your time, but, I need your keys. And then I started my whole process, and I've got my whole checklist, right? And so then I finished out the rest of the day, got a locksmith out. The next morning I come in, and the keys to the apartment were in the office. They put them through the little mail slot. So I'm thinking, well, that's weird. They moved out really quickly. I mean, I don't, usually you have to crowbar them out, right? It's never easy to get them out. So I thought, okay, wait, yeah, this is going to start like a grand day. And so I go into the apartment and I look in there, and there's blood on the walls. And I'm thinking, oh no. And it was up, oh man, it was all over the apartment, all over the carpeting. I mean, it was not a little bit, it was a lot. And I just thought, wow. And I'm thinking, and I'm assuming it was her, because he was really in a mood. And so and I called Joe Nimchek, and I tell him, I need some help here. It looks like I'm gonna be here for a while. And he's just like, just hang in there and just do your best you can. So I get in there, and here comes the manager, and she's got these big glasses on, like sunglasses, and she's got a thing over her hair. And I said, well, I'm actually glad to see you're here and that you're alive. And she said, I'm so sorry. And she said, never meant for all this to happen, but I apologize. And if I can pay it back so I don't get him in trouble, because, he's really upset with me, but he beat me up, and I ended up just, my family came and her family came and picked her up. But it was like, wow, I had no clue that was going to happen. And then it always has made me think, whenever terminating someone, be prepared, be ready, know that, especially the husband-wife dynamic. And when they don't know the other one's has stolen, it's bad. I mean, none of it's good. And when at least when they did it together, they know it's each of their faults. But anyway, we had some, maybe 3 customers complain that male customers claimed that our manager had touched them inappropriately. And this is in the 80s. Like, this isn't like anything recent, right? So they're like, Carol, get up there and go see what's going on. I got all those good duties. So I go up there and this guy is super, super nice. So I was trying to figure out, and I met with this younger man that, had the claim. And he said that the first time he went out to look at the unit, that the manager had as he's driving the golf cart, he put his hand on his leg. And anyway, ultimately manager exchanged sex with the customer, and when I looked, he had a free unit. It was complimentary.
Well, you just reminded me I had to fire an area manager for getting blowies in a unit. He thought he was off the camera and he wasn't.
Oh man.
But he was getting it from the female employee. So.
Yeah. I had a guy that did an audit for, and in the notes, it gives best in county. And I was like, what? I'm looking at the notes. I'm like, that's odd. And then the first unit I went to that was right behind the manager's or the office, I opened it up and it had a fan in there. It had a couch. And so then this girl, I called her up. I said, I don't understand how you have a free unit. She goes, yeah, I exchanged sex with the manager. And then I looked like he got terminated. And so I looked through the stuff. And now this isn't my site that I was doing work for others, but I was helping him get someone new. But anyway, because it was his relative or something, distant relative. And anyway, as I'm going through the stuff, he's got all this porn, and he must have spent more time in there doing that because the store wasn't doing very well. But I was like, now I have to get rid of all this stuff, and what am I going to do with this? So I tried to, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to burn it. I'm like, no, that's dangerous. So I just put it all in the dumpster. But there's been a lot of weird stuff in the dumpster over the years.
Dumpster diving day out there, didn't you?
Oh yeah, we've had, probably, yeah, I've had some weird dumpster diving stories too.
Hey, everybody, there's porn in the dumpster.
Yeah. I've had managers break their ribs. I bet I've had at least 3 managers break something trying to dumpster dive.
Yeah. Well, we
had
tenants that help get out that get stuck in there after they're dumpster. Yeah.
We've had to take a ladder out there to help them get out.
Yeah.
There's just no way you could explain this in a job interview, how entertaining this job could be, right?